There are some things that you want to make sure that you avoid while we are going through this very important process. And the first of those things is you want to avoid opening any new accounts. You want to avoid making any large purchases or having anyone pull your credit. Now, the reason why you want to avoid opening new accounts is because typically when we submit your file to underwriting, we've done so based on a credit report that was a picture of a space in time, right? And sometimes throughout that process, underwriting may be reevaluating that credit or your bank statements and such. And if something is brought to their attention, such as a large purchase, then the natural question is going to be, well, where did this money come from? Was a new account opened? How did that impact their scores, their debt to income ratio? I want to see that agreement, etc. Sometimes it can sort of open an unnecessary proverbial can of worms, which is why it's something we want to avoid. Not always necessarily a deal breaker, but again, we want to try to keep this process as simple and seamless as possible for you. I always recommend avoiding opening any new accounts, making any large purchases, and of course, having anybody pull your credit. As I have covered a few times in previous videos, anytime somebody does what's called a hard credit inquiry, you run the risk of dropping your score by anywhere from 2 to 10 full points. And obviously we want to avoid that at all costs, because again, when we lock in your terms, we're doing so based on your current scores. And although we will typically close your loan within that time frame of your lock, anything can happen. We always say to hope for the best, plan for the worst. That way, if there happen to be any delays throughout the process and we have to push your closing back, again, it's very rare, but it happens from time to time. If we have to extend your lock or for any reason re-pull your credit, everything still looks the same. The next thing you want to avoid is changing employers. Again, not necessarily a deal breaker, but sometimes if you change employers, then we have to get a new verification of employment, depending on what type of change it is. For example, if the way you get paid is changed, it could possibly disqualify you from that loan. If a job opportunity presents itself throughout the process, let us know and we can discuss your options. Usually my recommendation would be to wait until the process is complete to schedule your start date. If that's absolutely unavoidable and it's a huge pay increase or opportunity for you, let's discuss the options before we make any changes. And then the last but not least is moving any large sums of money. Now, typically underwriters are going to evaluate your assets and they're going to look closely at a few things, but most importantly, and what they're typically going to look for is incoming large deposits or transfers and outgoing large transfers. Now, the outgoing is usually not as heavily weighed, however, they do look for a regularity. For example, if I am regularly paying, let's say, $700 a month to GM Automotive, and they don't see a GM Automotive loan on my credit, they're going to ask about that. They're going to say, oh, well, why is this person paying $700 a month to GM? I don't see this on their credit. Did they recently open a new loan? Is this a cosign for someone? And we would usually have to explain what that is for. If you're just helping out a family member or a friend, usually a simple letter of explanation stating that you choose to help someone out and you're not obligated to that loan would usually clear that question or condition. But again, it's always the best bet to avoid any large sums of money being moved to or from the account if not absolutely necessary. Now again, none of these things on their own or even compiled are necessarily deal breakers. They're simply recommendations that we make to make sure that we do everything we can to make your loan process, whether it be a home buying experience or a refinance, as pleasant and seamless as possible. Because as I stated earlier, a lot of different emotions may be running through your head and your heart throughout the process of buying your first, second, third, or even 10th home. So the last thing we want to do is complicate things. We want to keep things as simple for you so it's a joyous experience. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to click the link below, give us a call. If this video that we have shared today has provided any valuable information for you, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions or thoughts on any issues that we've covered, or you want to see some things covered in the next video, please take a moment to let us know your thoughts. Appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to talking with you soon.